Hello and welcome to the Cozy Painter. My name is Sky, and this will eventually be a Demon Prince of Nurgle. I'm converting it from this line of miniatures from Dungeons & Dragons. I start by cutting away some of the bulkier items that don't really match the Nurgle aesthetic in Warhammer 40,000. This includes these bulky shoulder pads as well as the sculpted detail around the neck. I 3D printed this dingy looking sword to replace this ornate staff that the model comes with. I want to keep this bit because I think it may come in handy for a Sisters of Battle project in the future. After cutting away the remaining staff, the sword fits nicely into the model's hand. After cutting away more details, this is the base of the model that I'll be working with. I pulled out some chains from my Death Guard bits. I want to bend them around the contours of the model. By heating the chain in boiling water, the plastic becomes soft enough to bend without breaking. I'm able to fully bend the chain around the body by repeatedly heating and gently bending the chain. Speaking of chains, I bought some jewelry chains from a local craft store. These are about the right scale for hefty, chaos-style chains. I drilled a hole in the faceplate of a fetid bloat drone, glued one end of the chain into the underside, and wrapped the chain around the shoulder of the Demon Prince. I liked this idea of a demon scrounging the battlefield for appropriately sized armor to wear after its apotheosis. Sometimes, when you're converting a model, a certain piece will fit in an unexpected way and completely change the course of your conversion. This nurgling was that piece for me. The way the demon's head tilts down and looks directly at the nurgling evokes a sort of affection towards it, almost like that of a parent. I was going to go in a more industrial direction for this model, but I wanted to strip away the details so the viewer would focus more on the connection between the demon and the nurgling. Now that the pose and bits are in place, I start filling the gaps and building up layers of fat with green stuff. And I use clay shaper tools coated in water to wipe away any fingerprints that I may leave in the green stuff while sculpting. The segmented tail of the demon instantly reminded me of an earthworm, so I rounded off the end and shaped a clitellum around the tail. Can you even call yourself a Demon Prince of Nurgle if you don't have 7 blessed pustules forming under your skin? I think not. Most of the green stuff work is done, so I start sanding off the imperfections, trying to blend the green stuff into the base model. I thought I would paint the wings separately and attach them later, but then I saw how much green stuff work I would have to do afterwards, and decided to just glue the wings on now and sculpt in the fat around them. The back of the model was a blank canvas, ripe for details, so I sculpted in the Nurgle symbol of the fly, which is unholy iconography of Nurgle in the Death Guard. I wanted to make it look like it was carved directly into the demon's flesh. This is my co-pilot Wednesday. She's a heretic, but I believe she's aligned with Tzeentch. Truly unscrutable. The model is now fully converted and glued, so it's time to paint. I give a quick zenithal prime using Stynylrez black primer, followed by Liquitex white ink, all through the airbrush. I want to paint the armor to match those of my Death Guard units, which are painted in the Horus Heresy era off-white with green shoulders. I start with a base coat of Reaper Military Blue, followed by Citadel Lauren Forest, Citadel Elysian Green, and finally a tiny bit of Citadel Ushabti Bone. The main armor panels are painted using a progression of Citadel Xandri Dust, Citadel Ushabti Bone, and finally Citadel Screaming Skull. Screaming Skull will be the highlight color I use on a number of different areas of the model, as it makes for a good universal highlight. I tried painting the tail in the colors that my brain told me worms are. Pink, right? But upon further inspection, worms are actually more of a gray-brown color than a true pink. As painters, we sometimes need to challenge the things that our brain tells us about the world and actually analyze our subject with an artistic eye. The progression of colors on the tail are Citadel Gorthor Brown, Citadel Bugman's Glow, Reaper Brains Pink, and finally Citadel Rakarth Flesh. At this point, I base coat some of the metallics just so I have an idea of how my main colors will work when next to them. Now I begin tackling the main colors of this model, the skin tones. I'm following a tutorial from heavy metal painter Darren Latham. Mr. Latham had a wonderful YouTube channel with long-form tutorials, but the channel was taken down. If you search for them, you can easily find them re-uploaded by the public. The progression of colors for the skin tone is a base coat of Citadel Bugman's Glow mixed with Reaper Royal Purple, followed by mixing in progressively lighter tones of Reaper Leather Brown, Reaper Golden Skin, Citadel Ushabti Bone, and Citadel Screaming Skull. I then go back to Royal Purple mixed with Reaper Denim Blue and darken the recesses. Lastly is an even darker recess shade with Citadel Abaddon Black added to the mix. The idea of this progression is to cover less and less surface area with each successive coat, getting lighter towards the upward facing surfaces. Mr. Latham's tutorials are a great resource for people looking to sink some hours into a quality paint job. I paint the pustules with a sickly Citadel Elysian Green and Citadel Averland Sunset, with a small highlight of Citadel Screaming Skull for the pus. I then dip back into Averland Sunset for the layers of exposed fat beneath the skin. One final highlight of Vallejo Game Elfic Flesh will end the skin. I painted the nurgling on this model using the same technique I employed on the skin of the demon, substituting the peach skin tones with a more unnatural purple hue. I start with Reaper Royal Purple again, adding Citadel Cacophony Purple, and finally highlighting with Citadel Slanesh Grey. Now I wash all the metallics in a generous coat of Citadel Agrax Earthshade to give them the typical dingy look you would expect from a follower of Nurgle. The wings use the same skin tones as the main body, but I intentionally leave spaces on the wings unpainted. I'm going to try and freehand exposed muscle fiber underneath torn skin on the wings. I'm following a guide from Mr. Vince Venturella from the YouTube channel Hobby Cheating. Mr. Venturella is a Prometheus, delivering painting guides from Olympus to the cold, huddled masses of the hobby. For these muscle fibers, I'll be painting horizontal bands of color starting at a dark red, building up towards Reaper golden skin. I then glaze Citadel Blood for the Blood God onto the exposed muscles, tinting everything red and tying all the colors together. Afterwards, I airbrushed a thin coat of royal purple on the outside edges of the wings to darken them a tiny bit and draw attention towards the main body. Now that the outside of the wings are done, I focus on the inward-facing membrane. This is a large area of the model, and if I'm not careful with my color choices, it could easily dominate the viewer's attention. I chose purple because it's a cooler complementary color of green, and it shouldn't pull focus too much. I want the viewer to focus on the main body of the demon, so I chose not to do any intricate freehand on the inside. After the wings, I fill in the eye lenses on the demon's face as well as the shoulder plate from the bloat drone. I picked the same colors that I used on the Nurgling's skin, but I substituted Slanesh Gray with Reaper Punk Rock Pink. This warmer pink should help add more vibrancy to the eye, which I hope adds a subconscious sense of affection coming from within. Following another guide by Mr. Venturella, I added texture and rust to the demon's sword. I bought these generic artist chalks because they're essentially the same product as the expensive weathering powders. I add various brown and red tones and repeatedly wash the sword to darken and blend the colors so they don't pull focus from the demon. And after some edge highlighting and minor details, the demon is done. I'm really pleased with how this model came out. It's not at all what I was expecting to end up with when I first opened the box, but I really ended up loving it. There are areas that I know I could have painted better, but a finished model is better than a perfect unfinished one. A Demon Prince is a special model to build. They don't really have to follow any existing conventions of your army. Every Demon Prince exhibits the blessings of their patron in different and horrifying ways. Building a Demon Prince is an opportunity to dig deep into your bits box and let your imagination guide you. Don't be afraid to pivot directions if you find a bit that really speaks to you. This little nurgling chewing on his own intestines won me over and changed my entire idea for the project. I still need to find a unified basing scheme for my army, and once I figure that out, I'll take this Demon Prince off its temporary base and place it upon the rotting throne it deserves. I want to thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. I've been Sky from The Cozy Painter, and until next time, stay cozy.